Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Sales Circle podcast, the sales-based podcast that is designed to help you improve your sales, whether you're new to sales and you've taken on your first sales job and you're asked to go out on the road and become a sales rep, selling door to door, or maybe you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you're selling a product or your own services. This podcast is for you. The podcast has been going on for a while now in its current form. We're on season 2 and we're sort of near, I think this is the 20th episode. So we're absolutely flying through it. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Rob Spence, an internationally renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, the author of 3 Amazon best-selling books on sales, along with running a multi-award winning sales and marketing agency. And I'm your host for the podcast. Now, I say this quite often in a lot of the podcasts, so I hope it's not getting too boring. These podcasts are around half an hour long, give or take, okay? And they're designed to help you improve your sales skills, maybe give you a bit of motivation, maybe help you with some thoughts that you're having, and to answer your questions. And in fact, that leads me quite nicely into what this episode is all about. Today, we're going to be focusing on your questions, okay? So every episode, we tend to go through 3 or 4 of your questions, and I really hope you can send those in to me. But I was getting a bit of a backlog. I was getting quite a few that I just knew I couldn't keep up with. So I thought, do you know what? Why don't we dedicate a whole episode to your questions? And some of these questions are, let's have a look through my list here. They're from beginners in sales. They are people of whom are fresh on the road, fresh making sales. Some of them are talking about prospecting. Some of them talk about objection handling. Some of them talk about relationships and trust and everything else in between. So this episode is going to be a bit different to normal. Normally, we will focus on one singular topic. This week, we're going to be a bit all over the place, just answering your questions. Of course, look, if you have any questions moving forward for me to talk about in future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. There's a number of things that you can do to get in touch. You can either send me an email at thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com. or connect with us on social media. Goodness, we are everywhere. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X. We're on, I don't know what I've missed off there. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere, right? I think you can even send comments, directly if you listen to this on Spotify. So, look, without further ado, let's get into the episode. But before we do, I ask of you a number of things. 1, make sure you hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. No matter wherever it is you're listening, the more followers, the more subscribers we get, the better. And it just means I can create better content for you that you'll come to love and enjoy. And also, why don't you share this with 1 or 2 of your colleagues? Maybe you have a peer, you've met someone in a networking group and they need help with sales. Send them this episode over. Thank you so much for joining me in the Sales Circle. Shall we crack on? So as I alluded to earlier, this episode is a bit different. We're going to be looking at some questions and we're going to start off from the beginners. Okay, we were all new at sales once. Goodness, if you're like me, I can remember my first day. God, to be fair, there was a couple of first days in sales. There was the time working at a large retail store and I was selling amongst obviously all the wares, but I was targeted on financial services. And I remember that fear that you have, right? That fear when you are selling or you're about to sell, especially when you're new in sales, right? It can be very scary, very daunting. So let's look at some of these. And actually, before we go on to that, I remember my first day ever cold calling. I had my hand shaking, picking up the phone. It was horrendous. So I think, when we are new to sales, we need some help. We need some love. And these questions, I've got 3 here. Sam here says, how do I get over my fear of selling? And I just said I was petrified when I first started selling. Goodness, I know so many people that are really scared to sell. And even those people that are customer facing, sometimes they are scared to sell. And I think the word sales comes with a connotation of fear. And I don't think it has to, and I don't think that it should. Selling isn't telling. I want to make that really clear. Selling isn't telling. You can sell as an introvert. You can sell as an extrovert. What you've got to think about sales is it's problem solving. Really, without undermining anything and without sort of devaluing what sales does, it's problem solving. Of course, sometimes we need to find people of whom have a problem. Sometimes those people with a problem will come to us, but sometimes we need to find people with a problem. Sometimes our job is to remind people that they have a problem, or to make them aware of a problem that they haven't yet quite discovered or thought of or considered. We then need to sell the solution, or even better than that, we need to talk about the solution to that problem. Really, if you look at any sales connotation, it is just problem solving, really. And if we reframe it that way, you know, Sam, you've not really left any details in terms of what you do, what you sell, or how you sell it. But if you are a customer service advisor, you are a problem solver, and it's actually your job to solve problems. And I always say that you are doing your customer a disservice if you're not selling them enhanced solutions or better solutions, or helping them think of other solutions that they weren't quite aware of. We are sold to every single day. Everything you look around your room, everything you can see behind me was once upon a time sold. Everything from the bricks to make this little YouTube block here, right up to the plant up here, to all of these books, to the bookshelf, to this piece of art, to this jug, even the camera, everything, every component has been sold. You have been sold to very recently. If you've walked into McDonald's, what's the key question that people ask? Is that a large? Or do you want to make that a meal? They're sales questions. They are problem-solving questions. So if you have been sold to, then you can. So Sam, like I say, it's hard to truly answer your question without sort of knowing what it is you do, what it is you sell, and how. But reframe it. Think of yourself as a problem solver, not just a salesman. Let's look at question number 2. This one's from Anonymous. What's the best way to start a sales conversation with someone I've ever met? Oh, goodness, what a great question. I get this asked all the time. And it's probably one of the hardest things, right? How do I open? How do I start that conversation? Once the conversation's flowing, I know what to do. I know how to sell. It's just starting that conversation. Obviously, it depends on the medium. It depends whether we're going through telephone, whether we're going through cold calling, emailing, letter writing, LinkedIn messages. Of course, it will change. In my opinion, the key thing here to do is to add value. Right? If we go in too salesy, too quick, it pushes people away. Let's not beat around the bush. No one likes salespeople, right? Because normally they're too pushy, they're too forthright, and they're too in your face, okay? So what we need to do is get to a stage where we are offering value and thinking about a relationship first. We know that old adage of, you know, jab, 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 hook, right? You're not going to go straight into a fight, throwing that haymaker, going for the uppercut in the first punch. You've got to set your jabs out to see the pace, to see the reach, to set your target, and then go in, right? And sometimes those jabs are there to wind your opponent out, tire them out, and so on and so forth. It's the same with sales. You know, I get it all the time. I get, goodness, dozens of messages probably every day across email, telephone, and LinkedIn. And if you try and sell too soon, too quick, goodness, I'm off. So coming back to the question, so I'm going on a tangent here. If you can provide value, provide insights, develop a relationship first, when it comes to that kind of salesy question, you'll be fine. So just think about what value you can add, try and make it hyper-personalized, and you'll be good as gold. Got another question here from Josh. How do I deal with nerves on a sales call? Oh, goodness, yeah. I suffered with this massively when I first started, making outreach. You know, I remember I just said a second ago, my hand was shaking. I was dead nervous. You know, I thought everyone in the room was going to be listening to me, laughing at me, and they probably were, right? And to a degree, it's similar to like a stage fright kind of situation. It is similar to that. And I think really a couple of key things, right? I'll tell you what, I'll give you 3 tips because I could probably talk about cold calling for hours. Tip number 1 is to prepare and rehearse, okay? Normally we get fearful, we get nervous when we're unprepared. Although, yes, I would never really say to learn your line, to have a script. We should know roughly where we want that conversation to go. And if we can get into the habit of knowing where that conversation is going to go and understanding what responses you may hear and how you're going to overcome those responses, that part of things gets a tiny bit easier. Alongside that, we want to sort of focus on listening. You know, once again, I think on any kind of call, we feel it has to be a one-way situation. We feel that we have to talk, we have to pitch. And actually, it should really be, 20% of you talking and 80% of you listening. the more questions you can ask. Questions are great in sales because they'll kind of do a couple of things. One, they will help uncover the needs, the wants, and the problems that your prospect is facing. But beyond that, it will also allow you to breathe. It'll allow you to take your time and pause and take a minute and just listen and absorb that information. You know, the last thing you want to be doing is get out of breath. And finally, just my final tip on this one is just practice and just do it, right? The worst thing that's ever happened to me on a phone call, on a telemarketing call, on a telesales call is I've been hung up on, right? Yeah, it's going to hurt your ego, especially the first one. It's going to hurt, you know, your feelings, your emotions. You're going to be a bit embarrassed and everything else in between. But it's going to happen, okay? They're not going to come around your house and punch the living daylights out of you. I don't know. They might do. Who knows? But the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get rejected. So the more you do, the better, right? And look, you know, there's enough out there to say that, you know, you should be making 100 calls a day to get, you know, some kind of result. So just the more you do, the better you get. You'll go through that natural practice, but then also you kind of diluting your chances. You know, you know me, I love a sports analogy, right? I love a sporting analogy. Okay, you know, if Cristiano Ronaldo took a shot at goal and missed, it doesn't mean he's going to go off and cry and never dare do it again. He will shoot and shoot and shoot and try again. You know, you look at Jamie Vardy, you know, I'm a big Jamie Vardy fan because I'm a massive Leicester City fan, right? He's missed loads of goals, but he's also scored loads of goals. And actually, normally you look at, you know, people who score goals, it's because they're actually just taking those shots and those chances, right? So I hope that answers your question. Final one here from Priya. Final one in the beginner section. How do I know if sales is the right career for me? Oh, God, yeah. I think the best salespeople out there are problem solvers. They want to solve problems. I think they are, to some degree, customer centric. They enjoy talking with people and enjoy building relationships and connections. I think the best salespeople are hungry. You know, I don't think, personally, and I could be wrong, I don't think rich people make good salespeople because they're not hungry enough. They've got something to fall back on. You've got to be hungry, right? And you've got to be open to helping others. I think the best salespeople don't necessarily worry about the money. They worry about the problem solving first. The money comes thereafter. So I'm going to push on because I've just realized the time. I spent ages talking about beginners. Let's move on to prospecting and lead generation questions. I do just want to say thank you so much for sending these questions in. These are great. So I've got a question here from James. How do I find good leads without wasting time? Look, was it James? Sorry. Yeah, James. It's a tough one. I think when you are prospecting, you are naturally going to waste some of your time, okay? Don't believe in this whole false ideology that you can really hyper qualify, you can really nail down your potential meets and greets, and you know you can enhance your time and hone down your time. You're going to waste some time. You genuinely are, you know, and that shouldn't stop you. You know, prospecting is all about planting seeds, in my opinion, right? You could go to a networking event, spend 2 or 3 hours there, and you know you think you come away without getting anything from it. But how do you know that you've not made a lasting impact with someone and that person comes back to you 6 months down the line, or with some longer term nurturing comes back to you 12 months down the line? I've had it recently. We've had a client here for Paragon Sales Solutions. I first met this individual years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, stayed in touch naturally through LinkedIn. You know what it's like. Lo and behold, a couple of months ago, knocks on my door, says, right, I'm ready to start using your services now. I'm like, oh, God, blimey, right? So always think of the long term. Prospecting to some degree isn't always about the short term. Sometimes it's about the long term as well. Got a question here from Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, saying, how do I get people to actually respond to my outreach message? Okay, 2 tips here. Okay, and once again, I could talk for hours about this. Tip number 1, if you really want people to, you know, respond to your outreach messages, personalize it. I read a statistic yesterday that 79% of buyers respond really well to hyper-personalized messages. No one wants a copy and pasted message, which is why I think AI will fail and struggle over the coming years, and automation in sales, okay? Nearly 80% of buyers want that personalization. Secondly, add value. People are never going to respond to you if you're boring, if you're the same as everyone else, if you're clearly just in it for the sale. You've got to make it interesting. What value can you give? What insights can you provide? What entertainment can you offer? And the third one as well, actually, I'll give you another little tip, Sarah. Just keep going. You know, the chances of someone responding to message one actually are quite slim when you look at it. Think about that, you know, touch points of 7 to 12 times. If you can reach out to someone 7 to 12 times, you're more likely to get some results. So like I say, personalize it, make it full of value and entertainment, and keep going. Oh, Tom, thank you. Good question here. How many follow-ups is too many? And I just said a second ago, we should be following up, right? We always talk about following up anywhere between 7 to 12 times. And actually, really, when you look at the statistics, 80% of sales require sort of 5 or more follow-ups. So, like I say, I always think 7 to 12 is a nice sort of touch point. You know, once a week, once every couple of weeks is good and ideal. Normally, just keep going until someone says no or bugger off. Like that, that's really my golden rule in the grand scheme of things. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know what's going on in someone's life. You don't know how busy they are, how empty their life is. You don't know if something's kicked off on a personal matter. You know, you truly don't know until that person says, no, I don't need this. Just keep rocking with it, keep going with it. I think as long as, similar to what we just said for Sarah a second ago, make sure your contact points are really genius and they're worth responding to. If you say, hello, just following up on my last message, did you receive it? Are people going to follow up on that? Probably not. You know, what value can you give? What parts of your personality can you provide? You know, what can you do to get someone to respond to you? Got another question here. Final question in this little section here. What's better? Here we go. Right. What's better? Cold calling, emailing, or social selling? Okay. Can I nail it in one? I don't know. Cold calling, email. Look, they all hold relevance to some degree. I've seen success with all of them. I'm gonna sit on the fence and I'm gonna say all of them. Right, the camera that I'm recording this on is on a tripod. Okay, so it's got 3 legs. Okay, I cannot say which of those legs is the best because if I kick out any of those legs, the whole tripod's going to fall down. Okay, and I think with outreach, it's the same. Of course, you know, if you want instant results and instant communication, telephone is best because it's disruptive. If you want to build long-term relationships, probably social selling is going to be probably better. You know, I think email, if I were to kind of score them, is probably on the least of what should be everyone's priorities to some degree, but they all work hand in hand. So don't think about like what works better. Think about how you can utilize all 3 of them together to build that tripod of outreach and get some good results. So thank you so much for your questions. I'm absolutely loving this episode. It's really getting me thinking. Let's stop for a minute. We're going to take a quick advert break. I'll be back momentarily. Hey guys, just a quick note. My 3 best-selling sales books are still available to buy on Amazon. There's 3 to choose from. You've got Relationship Selling, The Paragon Mindset, and A Month to Improve Your Sales, all of which are great books to help you improve your sales. They're targeted for anyone from salespeople to entrepreneurs, CEOs, MDs, customer service people, and all designed to be an easy read, a quick read, but will help you generate better sales results. All you got to do is head on over to Amazon, search for Rob Spence, or search for Relationship Selling, A Month to Improve Your Sales, or The Paragon Mindset, and they should come up. Available in paperback or Kindle edition. I'd love to see them on your bookshelf very soon. Welcome back to this bonus episode of the Sales Circle podcast. And today we're going through some questions from listeners, trying to deal with a bit of a backlog, to be honest. So we're going to move on to relationships and trust. I'm a big believer in relationship selling, hence why I authored a book about it. So got this one from Emily. Thank you so much, Emily. She says, how do I build rapport without sounding fake? Oh, yeah. I think this is the danger with relationship selling, isn't it, right? Because it's become such a phenomena, we can, or some people can sound fake, detrimental, and they can ask questions without truly caring what the answer is. And I think the key thing here is think of a relationship or any rapport for the long term. You know, once again, we know that we're not going to get a result in message 1, in call 1, or in email 1. I feel like I'm slouching, so let me just sit up slightly, or, you know, or anything else like that. So we know we've got to be in it for the long term. We should ask engaging questions. We should be entertaining. We should be offering value, and we should be responding back to what our prospects say. So ask about business, challenges. People will know. People will know when you care. People know when you're asking questions for the sake of asking questions, and people will know when you are truly engaged. So make sure you're truly engaged, and always think, I think, quality over quantity. David from Glasgow, thank you for your question. He says, how do I handle long sales cycles without losing momentum? So this is where those touch points really come into play, I think. You know, many B2B sales processes are longer term. Don't ever fool yourself to think that they're not. They will take a long time to convert. You know, we've had clients, you know, not convert for 6 months sometimes. And this is, you know, as a sales and marketing agency, some people's sales cycles last a long time. So it is about keeping momentum. It's about staying fresh in your prospects' minds. It is all about being relevant. It's about providing value, offering value, being there. So make sure you're connecting with your prospects on social media, especially LinkedIn. Like their posts, comment on their posts, send them messages from time to time, and you'll, you know, be absolutely fine. I think it really shows the need to constantly be asking for the next steps. You know, shall we jump on another call? Can we meet for a coffee? Do you want to come and chat for 10 minutes? You know, do you want to come meet the team? Or, you know, can we look to set something in stone? It's always asking for those next steps really help as well. Jess from London, she says, I'm in London this weekend actually. Jess, how important is personal branding in sales? I think it's huge now. I genuinely think it's huge. And I've been saying this for 6 or 7 years. And, you know, I think if you look at our last episode when we were talking about speaking at events, you know, I think your personal brand is massive. And I think it's very vital to look at, you know, no matter your industry, you want to become the go-to carpet salesperson. You want to become the go-to sales expert. You want to become the go-to marketing expert. You want to become the go-to car photographer. You know, that's where personal brand comes into play. You know, think of your personal brand like gardeners of the 80s or 90s. You know, if you are the person that everyone thinks of straight away, people will come to you. And not only that, when you go to people, they'll have trust in you. They'll see you as an authority and be willing to listen in. So I'm conscious of time. I've really taken on more questions than I probably should have done. So allow me, if I may, let's look at some simple objection handling questions. So we've only got a bit of time. Let's answer 1 or 2 objection handling questions. Okay, here's a good one. Adam, thanks so much for the question. How do I handle it's too expensive? Massive objection we always hear. I can't afford it. It's too much for me. It's way out of my budget. Let's start to spin this. Let's start to boomerang this into value. Okay, let's sell value over price. If I were to say to you, look, how much no, that's probably the wrong way to say this. If we are selling value, people will spend above the odds to buy what it is that you are selling, right? If they can see the value that they are going to get, or that perceived value that's there. If they are just seeing a price tag, then lo and behold, they're not going to get hold of it. The marketplace is wide. I can go to Primark and buy a £3 t-shirt. I can go to a designer in Harrods and spend £3,000 on a t-shirt, right? Pretty much the same material, but different. It's all about selling the value and the add-on value and the add-on benefits as well. Here's a good one. How do I deal with aggressive or rude prospects? Look, just stay calm. That's not the only prospect you're ever going to speak to. Don't take it personally. You know, you will naturally feel your head drop, your morale drop, and everything else in between. But just move on to the next one. Take some time. That's their doing, not yours. That they're rude and abrasive. Couple more then, just because I am pushed for time, and I do apologise that I'm rushing some of these. Maybe we need to do another one. Who knows? Oh gosh, how do I speed up slow moving deals? Olivia, great question, Olivia. How do I speed up slow moving deals? It's really hard, right? Sometimes people drag their heels, drag their feet. We've got to look at this 2 ways, right? If we think of Cialdini's 6 principles of influence, we know that people are more influenced and persuaded when there is a sense of urgency, when there's a sense of scarcity there. We also know that one of the biggest objections we face is a lack of urgency. It's our job as salespeople, as problem solvers, as advisors, to incur that urgency. We don't have to be cheesy with it. We don't have to go through that old manipulation tactic of, I've only got 2 left, you best act now, or we don't need to use the kind of closing methods where we say, look, if you take it now, I'll offer you 10% off. It's desperate, it's cheesy, it's sleazy. Sometimes it is just asking the question, of, is there any reason why we can't get this started this month? Do you feel that we could look at doing this quarter? Just asking and probing those questions. Of course, we've got to make sure we tie whatever it is they're selling to their business needs. But if you ask those questions, you're going to be absolutely fine. So we're coming to the end of this episode. Goodness, this one has flown. Do you know what? I've absolutely loved answering these questions. And I think this is something regular we may do once a month or once every couple of months. Just before we wrap off, I want to give you my book recommendation of the week. And today we're looking at Advanced Selling Strategies by Brian Tracy. An absolute great book for two reasons. One, it's a bloody good book. Secondly, Brian Tracy is probably one of the leading sales trainers of our time, right? This has been sat on my bookshelf for a long time, read it many years ago, and is a great, great read. Don't get me wrong, sometimes they're, like many sales trainer books, they're very Americanized, very cheesy at times, if I'm allowed to say, but it's still a great read. It's quite a thick book, so you want to invest a lot of time into this, but it's really good. I'll read out a little bit here. Let's have a little look here. So you develop the self-image to give you the edge in every sales situation. Concentrate on the customer's emotional factors to ensure better sales results. Identifying your customer's most pressing concerns and position your product or service to fill those needs. So what we've been talking about a lot today, sales is a problem-solving game, right? It's a problem-solving job. And this book will really, really help you. So that's this week's book recommendation. As always, I will drop you a link in the comments and in the show notes below. So if you want to get yourself a copy, head on over to the comments and you'll be able to pick yourself one up. Goodness, today's episode has absolutely flown. We've got, 2 minutes left? 2 minutes. Goodness, today's episode has flown. I don't know about you, but I've really enjoyed today's episode. I've really enjoyed going through people's questions, and I hope I've answered them really, really well enough. Of course, if you've got a burning question, my inbox remains open. Send in an email to thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com. I'll endeavour to answer your question on the show at a later date. Of course, if you're watching on social media, any social media clips, just send me a DM on the relevant channels and I'll get back to you. These episodes come out every single Thursday, pretty much without fail, and I hope to do them for a long time coming as well. So if you are looking to increase your sales, then these episodes and this show is for you. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, they'll be there. Make sure you follow us on social media. And of course, if you want more support, more value, more guidance, head on over to Facebook, find the Sales Circle podcast Facebook group and be sure to join there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. It's been a pleasure presenting as always, as much as I hope it's been a pleasure listening on the other end as well. As the advert suggests, do check out my books, available on Amazon. Search for Rob Spence, search for The Paragon Mindset, Relationship Selling, or A Month to Improve Your Sales, and start to really invest in yourself, really start to invest in your knowledge as a salesperson. I look forward to next week's episode. I look forward to speaking with you again very, very soon. And until next time, all the best. And that's it for another episode of The Sales Circle. Make sure you hit that follow button, join us over on social media, and we'll see you next week.